Sorry, I lost battery for a while, and even now it's not a lot. See, I'm doing a lot of things, and I hope that I can take out time to do more of these more frequently, to be honest, because I also think that people should know, these things, and especially this sort of interfaith war that people have, not understanding that essentially they're all talking about the same thing. Back at it again, as we saw over here, that God had sent venomous snakes to bite the Israelites, and they bit them, and some of them died. And Moses lifted a staff, and on the staff was a bronze serpent. So we see that Jesus calls himself that bronze serpent by saying that as Moses lifted the staff in the desert, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. Lifted up on what? Lifted up where? Lifted up, like, literally it doesn't make any sense, right? These are all tales, esoteric tales, symbolism and stories that are giving insight into deeper aspects of reality. So he says that Christ says to himself that he has to be lifted up. What does that even mean? What does that mean, like being lifted up, like Moses lifted the serpent in the desert? So we will see now. Firstly, we'll see a little bit about what Christ was. John is the most esoteric Christian book in the entire Bible, the most esoteric one, along with Ezekiel and Daniel and books like that in the Old Testament. But John in the New Testament is the most esoteric one. So it says here, the Word became flesh. Listen to that again. The Word became flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. The first swar, let's say, all right? The first thing that came out of the God mind, that God mind wanted to create, not the separation, not the inversion that fell out of the abode of God and wanted to create something of his own. No, God has a natural way of creation as well. That's found in nature, and that in the natural aspects of being, the Fibonacci sequence, for example, these naturalistic patterns that you see in reality are, let's say, the God mind creating, constantly fractalizing itself, constantly breaking itself apart, fractalizing itself, creating from it. What God must be then must be some sort of a singularity, right? An assimilation, a complete assimilation into heaven, God, whatever you want to call it, the source, the being of light. And from that sentience, a frequency came out. A word is what? A word is a frequency, right? God created the word with his mouth. He spoke and the world became, right? The words created reality. Right? So the first thing that the God mind created, the first frequency, the word, is the first thing that is separate from itself, yet just close to it enough to say that it is the closest thing to God, right? From nothing to a frequency, right? From this point zero, point zero to something. Okay, there's a frequency, a word, a frequency, a vibration formed into existence. So when Christ is calling himself, or when people are saying he's the firstborn of God, right? He's the first thing that came out of God. Like the concept of Christ, the Christ consciousness is the first thing that, the purest frequency, the highest frequency, let's say, that came from God without being assimilated in God. So it is individual. It is not the assimilation with God. It has an individual identity, right? But it is the closest thing to God. So the Word became flesh, right? Everything started existing when the nothingness spoke it into existence, or when the all spoke it into existence. Whatever way you want to look at it, a circle is round, right? Things are created and things disintegrate. The cycle, the serpent eating its own tail, these are all symbols. So so Christ is saying that, or John is saying, the author, whoever that is saying that the Word became flesh, that God, because God is so pure, the the unity field, or not the unity field, the source field is so pure that in itself it is complete. So when it creates something separate from itself, it is the closest thing to it, right? Yet at the same time it is distinct in identity. So it is a unique and individual, right? But it is self-aware of the God self within. So it is separate yet one at the same time. The inversion of it would be, let's say, the Antichrist, wherein everyone becomes a robotic creature and everyone has a hive mind, a singularity, the opposite end at the spectrum of the singularity. Because everything that has a positive also has a negative charge. The masculine is the positive charge, the feminine is the negative charge. A frequency pattern goes up and down, up and down. Everything rises and everything falls down. Everything that goes up has to come down. If you have bright days today, you will have a bad day tomorrow. Everything has a frequency pattern. Your heartbeat, everything goes up and down. That's an evident truth of nature. Everything has polarity. Right? So the inversion of this individuated self that is self-aware enough to be God, right? That is self-aware enough to be God, yet at the same time knows that it is distinct from God, and it is simply a vessel that is carrying the God frequency, the source frequency, the Christ frequency, that is individual from God, not assimilated, because that would be death, right? To be completely assimilated in the source light would be death, would be samadhi, would be the exit, complete exit. But as long as you're in the world, you must have some sort of individuated identity, not be a hive mind function, because God creates individuation. God creates uniqueness. That's why you see so many unique animals and unique ecosystems and unique cultures throughout the world with their unique dresses. And the devil creates multiculturalism. The devil creates abominations. So the Christ frequency, as I was saying, is the closest frequency to God. And here Jesus is now talking about himself again in a whatever Jesus is, whoever Jesus is, right? Jesus said, "You believe because I told you, I saw you under the fig tree. You shall see greater things than that." He then added, "I tell you the truth, you shall see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." Now firstly, he's called himself the staff that by Moses that was raised in the desert. And now he's saying that angels, higher dimensional source consciousness streams, let's say, right? Angels are messengers. We are passing on the message of the divine. So the source stream, right, through Christ individually expresses itself on this earth in those physical avatars. And this ascension and descension can be accomplished by anyone through the ascension and ascension of the energy in the spine. Christ might be the spinal energy, that energy, right? The Kundalini energy, the feminine, because Christ embodies that divine feminine, divine masculine completion, the completion of the polar opposites being assimilated in one, the Ardhanarishwar into one, the creative and the analytical into one, the left and the right hemispheres into one. At the consciousness level, you are neither masculine nor feminine. You are energy, right? It's when you become so dense that you start forming pronouns for those. I don't want to go into that, but everyone is free to do whatever they wish. I'm only here to pass on the information that I deem that through my years of research and through my spiritual experiences, I have found to be truth. So this frequency of God, this highest frequency that is separate from God, ascends and descends. Higher consciousness ascends and descends. Alright? A frequency ascends and descends on the ladder. Now, what is the ladder, you might ask? We are going to go into what the ladder is now. So we go for what is the ladder. By the way, as we noticed, Christ is here referring to angels ascending and descending on him. So he's calling himself the ladder, because that's how you ascend and descend. If you don't want to think of it like a ladder, which also has, the frequency sort of pattern, you can think of it like a frequency, right? Like a frequency pattern. So this frequency pattern, right, that Christ is calling himself, is spoken about in Genesis. And it is spoken about in Genesis in this dream that Jacob had. Now Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. Where he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun set. Taking on the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth. Remember this, he saw a stairway resting on the earth. Sorry about that. So I had someone at the door. Now Jacob left Beersheba, blah blah blah, not blah blah blah. And he put it stone. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head like a pillow, I guess, and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to the heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. All right. So then it goes into this elaborate not a back and forth, but God telling him what the other blessings that he's going to bestow upon him. But what does he see? The Jacob's ladder. He sees a stairway that goes all the way till heaven, and it comes down from heaven to the earth. And on this stairway, angels or messengers are coming and going. All right, higher dimensional beings, higher dimensional messenger beings are ascending and descending. Ascending and descending, not just coming and going. They might be coming and going as well, but also ascending and descending, because we all eventually become like angels. Everyone dies, and that's what it's spoken about in all mythologies, that after we die we have this immortal sort of light body and all of that. Though you can access that light body now as well. We'll get to that as well someday. So through the ladder, all right, through the ladder, whatever way you want to look at it, through the ladder that Christ calls himself, through the frequency, the energy on the ladder. There is an energy on the ladder that goes up and comes down, and it comes down and it goes up, sometimes depending on its acts and actions and lives and circumstances as well. Sometimes it consciously goes up, right? So, but whatever goes up comes down, whatever comes down goes up. Even God comes down to save our fallen dimension every now and then, does he not? From every epic, even the Hindu epics, all of the Vishnu avatars that he takes, the Dasha avatars that he descends into this world because he also loves the world. Why would he descend to a world he does not love? So he descends to the world because he loves the world, and he goes back to where he came from. So the ladder, the frequency, all right, all of these things, the ladder, the frequency, 33. The ladder, the frequency, 33. That's a nice little song it'll make. The ladder, what is it? The ladder, the frequency, and the 33. So, yes, remember that. Keywords to live your life by. There is a ladder, there is a frequency that ascends and descends on the ladder. You can ascend to a higher frequency, you can descend to a lower frequency. It totally depends on you. You can go all the way up and out through the head, or you can come all the way down and into the ground. So, see, I'll be frank about one thing. A lot of people think that only through that you can attain higher states of being. But how can you attain higher states of being through breathing if firstly you don't even know that beyond the physical that there is an aspect of the breath that does something to you? So first you have to awaken that light body within you. First you have to awaken the consciousness within you, that the expansive mind consciousness within you that that reacquaints you with the body that you always had, because that's what it does. It reacquaints you with the body that you always had, but you forget because you become dense through the years. You display densities and you add on densities. When people say things to you, you take on their words and you start believing them, and sometimes you give density back to people as well. Sometimes that density is alchemized through tears. When you cry, that density, that hardness in the heart, that heaviness in the heart that you feel, is leaked through the eyes, through the natural, godly, alchemical process of crying, right? And this, we can go into this as well. This is another, to how to reawaken, because that's what you essentially are trying to do. You're born awake. All children are born awake. And then you will go off to sleep at some point in your life. To become a child again, you must ask God for it. It's written in the Bible too, right? If you ask your father for something good to eat, will he give you a snake? Snake can be used in a lot of different terms. But will he give you poison? Will he give you something? I don't even think it says snake. I think it says poison or something like that. So, will your father give you poison? Will your father give you something bad if you're asking for something good? So pray. Praying is one of the best things you can do. Bhakti. Pray to God. Pray to the Almighty, the unspecified form of Him, the unspecified archetypical condensation of Him. Right? Pray to the Almighty, the source, without a name. That's what I did. When I became aware of the light within, and when I started understanding that it was the light within that is moving the 3D vessel, a vessel in its own right that deserves respect. But yes, that's what happens when people give you density, when people give their density to you, or when you take on the behaviors of others, when you take on things on yourself, you become dense. And that density is, I have some work, I think, and that density is, it makes you, it severs the bond between the light within you and the vessel outside. That's why you start becoming dense and you start believing that you're only the body, but the body is a very small part of you. Right? You're very expansive. You're Akash. I mean, you're everything inside. You're everything. So I hope this was insightful. So pray if you want to first, before you even do, because that's very egotistical of us to think that something from below can himself redeem and start experiencing whatever this awakening is. It's only someone from above who can redeem someone from below. As above, so below. As below, so above. Only something from within can redeem someone from without. Only someone from above can redeem someone from below. If you reach out for God, will He not... this is a nice way to sum it up, I think. If you reach out for God, if you have a limp finger, obviously it will be difficult, but God is trying to reach out to you, isn't He? The divine is always trying to reach out to us. It is only us who don't make the effort to reach out for the divine. So I hope that was interesting for you. You can start off by, firstly, yes, as I was saying, you can start off by praying and pray and eagerly ask the divine out of love and nothing else, not out of some experience that you want to have, not out of some mystical experience that you want to have or some insight that you want into deeper realities of life, or you want magical things to happen to you. Those things will automatically happen. But that's not the aim. The aim is because you love the divine so much. And the only way that you will ever reach that point is when you're at your lowest. When you are at your lowest, when you're at your most miserable, only then will you extend. When that limp finger extend to God. Because that's the only time we remember that there might be something more to us than our suffering. So pray. Firstly, pray. Pray as much as you want. eagerly pray. At your lowest, that prayer would be answered. And then you can start by having red foods like hibiscus tea. You can start by doing Shambhavi Mudras, as I said. That is one way to start it. Start by doing Shambhavi Mudra, concentrate in the middle of your forehead. Look at a candle flame. Keep it 3 or 2 feet away from your face and keep your eyes fixated on it. Tratka is what it's called. Keep your eyes fixated on it and do not blink. Alright, and do that like 5 to 10 minutes in a day. And do that and practice stillness, practice your awareness, center your awareness, and eagerly pray for the experience to happen. Keep doing all these things, keep doing your pranayamas, keep doing all these things, but the experience will not happen till you open your heart at your lowest and you give your steering wheel to the Lord and say, I have tried everything. I can't do it myself, so please help me, Lord. And of course He will. Alright, so I hope a little bit of it was insightful. I'll see you guys again. Cheers and over and out.